Hey everybody, welcome to the recovery scene. I'm really excited. I have Suzanne Logan with us, and I found her on TikTok, but she is also the host of the podcast Seek Purpose. So we will make sure to have a link to where you can find Seek Purpose when this is done. Definitely want to go and check that out. I'm just going to hand the floor over immediately and let this lady start telling you her story. Suzanne, thank you so much for being on with us.
Oh gosh, Leslie, thank you so much. And I'm just, talking to you before the show, is just getting to know you and what you go through and what you're trying to do here with this awesome platform. I'm grateful to be here, honestly. I think there's just there's not enough of us doing this actually, because there's so much need right now in our world to be able to, help people know that they're not alone through their journeys and their brokenness and wherever that is on their journeys of recovery, before their journeys of recovery. So yeah, thanks for being here. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story. And, I was sharing it the other day, and I don't really share my story a lot because I'm in recovery for a long time, and I take for granted that I live my life today sober, and I have experienced pretty much anything you could experience in life sober without having to pick up or drink or drug. And that's been pretty special, but I do take it for granted a lot of times because there are times in my life that I sometimes sit there and think, maybe now I can maybe have a drink on the patio. But that's when I know that I'm grateful that I'm still connected and stuck in the middle of my recovery program, because then I go to my supports, or I'm making phone calls or talking to people I support, and then they start talking and I hear them do the same thing. And I'm like, no, you didn't just say that. I can see your disease starting to, chirp at you. It's starting to peck into your daily thinking, and that's dangerous. And that's mine
tells me that when I turn 75 or 80, then I can have a drink.
Right? Something, I can't believe you said that, because that happened to me so vividly. Like, I was certain, I was thinking that, like, okay, fine, I'll just stay sober now and I'm going to drink when I get older. And then I went to a support meeting, and this 75-year-old man came in and shared his story. 75. He said he only drank for 5 years. And in 5 years, he told us how he retired. He had his wife died, and then he started drinking. And in 5 years, he had property and a boat and cabins, and like a successful life in every way that you'd ever want to have. And he lost it all in less than 5 years. And he was a homeless man, and he was broken, and he walked up, and I call him Uncle Al. He obviously passed away. This is many years ago, but I'm like, wow. And his message was, I never thought I would have an alcohol problem again once I decided I wasn't going to drink like I used to in my teens. Because he didn't all through his life until his wife died, and then he picked up, and he couldn't believe the progression. And he was there to tell the message that this is a disease, and it progresses, and it will kill. And it's killed me in every way but my body. So that message, I always feel like God delivered it to me because I was that teenage alcoholic that got into the recovery rooms very young, in my 20s, early 20s. And I never had a lot of the stories that you hear in recovery, even on social media, the hospitals, the seizures, the losses. I had a job. I didn't lose my son. I was financially bankrupt, but I was also very resourceful, getting more money. But I didn't think alcohol was a problem in my life, because it was the one thing that was my release. It was the one thing I looked forward to on the weekends with my girlfriends, to get dressed up and get the music going and, put the stilettos on and, get the babysitter. I did all of those things. My son was never affected in that particular way. So, and I would go out and drink. I didn't realize that it was such a problem until I came into the rooms and really understood what a blackout was, Like I remember waking up, I thought it was just a normal thing, waking up and calling your friends and saying, hey, do you remember blah, 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 blah? And like, what happened to my car?
Right.
Did you take my car? Because it was often that I would give my car to my girlfriend or, her boyfriend. And I mean, it wasn't unusual. I always thought I would maybe, I didn't realize this. She's like, no, what are you talking about, Suzanne? You took off. I didn't know where you went. And I'm like, oh, ha, 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 ha. Like just the stories. I mean, I live for the stories and the laughter that came from the escapades from the weekend. So,
right.
But it was,
what made you walk into the rooms?
I actually had a lot of friends around me, guys, that drank really bad. And I had these twins, ironically enough, not triplets, but twins, identical twins that drank like heavily, like they could not stop. And we were all like, even me, I was like, you guys got to stop. Like they had no ability to stop. And they ended up drinking so bad, they had bruises and welts. And I remember going to the doctor one time with one of them, and the doctor basically said, if you don't quit drinking, you're gonna be dead in a year. And he was 20. So he started going to recovery. And me being a supportive friend, as one of the, guy girl friends, I would show up at the meetings and support him, both of them. And it was perfect, the meeting I used to go to support them with, because it was a Saturday night meeting and it was started at 9. So it went till 10. And then I would go to the bar after, because you don't go to the bar at 9, of course, you got to walk in with an entrance, right? So it worked out well for me, but I started listening and I started looking at people and I started identifying with the emotions and the feelings. And I started questioning my drinking. And I finally asked another person, not my friends, but I asked another guy that I met in the program, how do you, like, I figured I'd never see him again. And I said, how do you know that you're an alcoholic? And he told me. And I always thought it was people who drank every day. I thought it was people who couldn't stop, drink every day, the shakes, I guess the paper bag.
Movies are on TV.
Right. Yeah. And he brought me through this glamorous way of drinking that I could identify with. That was, right up to getting dressed and getting ready. And then you drink and then you're feeling that happy. You're at the bar, you're, yay, dancing and dancing. Everything's a great night. And you get drunk. And then you realize you can't stop. And you have to have alcohol. You can't just go and have a couple and have a good time. You're in that drunkenness after you've drank, and then you can't stop. Like you want more booze when you're drunk. And I'm like, oh, I thought it was before you drink, or I thought, so then I went out one other time from that conversation on December 18th, 1991. And I drank knowing that information. And it was horrific. I did get drunk. I went to that place and I was going to play with myself to say, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to have another glass. I'm not going to have another glass. I'm not going to have a glass. I played that whole night. I was blacked out. I was insane. I did things to my kid. I locked him away when he was only 2 and left him to go get more booze. I mean, I had the story that everybody talks about outside of a seizure. Right. And I knew with everything in my being that I had a problem with alcohol. One night.
Wow.
Yeah. So here I sit. I went to those meetings and I, was like, okay, I'm 100% one of you. And everything just made so much sense. I felt like I was at home. I felt freedom. I felt, oh my God, hope. I felt life is going to get better. And it did. And by the following week, I was convincing myself I didn't have a problem.
Right.
And that's when I was on the journey to really understand from people that were around me, helping me know that's what your disease will tell you. Your disease will continue to tell you to the day you die that it you don't have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I got sober. I had, a great experience in the rooms. I did everything that I was told to, and I Yeah, I got sober and I stayed sober. However, it hasn't been easy. There's been a lot of things in my sobriety that I have done, that I've experienced, that has been very difficult in my life. It hasn't been all happy, joyous, and free. You know, like life hits you right in the nogger. Um, I had no memory when I came into recovery from the time I was 10 years old, backwards from being a kid. I had no memory. I didn't realize the trauma that I experienced through my childhood was as severe as it was because I was always drunk. I wouldn't allow myself to feel those feelings. So as I got sober, I started experiencing these emotions and these feelings that terrified me. I didn't want to feel them. I didn't want to go back there. I numbed them out so much that I didn't even remember. But as I continued to stay sober, as the years went on, more memories would pop up and more experiences of, I call them growth experiences that, that I've healed from.
Yeah.
Our families healed from.
Yeah. One thing that I have noticed interviewing people who have made their way into recovery, especially significant recovery, is a couple of themes. One is either I never felt like I fit in. And that's always code for I wasn't comfortable in my own skin and I didn't like myself. So I assumed everybody else wasn't going to like me either. And then the other one is some kind of trauma or some kind of mental health issue that we were either trying to medicate or drink away or use away. So those are just two very common themes that I've come across while doing this. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no question. Like I'm kind of old school. I've definitely been opened up to know there's different pathways to recovery. I don't want to have anybody take offense to the journey that I took. But when I first sobered up, it was important to stay anonymous for sure, because you'd lose jobs and children, and it's just something you wouldn't broadcast. It was in place for a purpose. The other thing is, as far as mental health, wasn't discussed as it is today. When I came in, I definitely, if I was that age today, I would be diagnosed with bipolar, PTSD, anxiety, depression, all of those terms or those disorders, mental health issues. I had them all and some, no question. But again, those were not really widely discussed 30 years ago. Right. So I didn't have anything. I didn't have those resources that are available today. And so I just, used a 12-step program and my doctor's support and outside counseling as a combination of my mental health team, I guess is what the term today is, your team of mental health supports. And I was grateful. I never had to use drugs. I didn't have a pick-me-up like, oh, I feel sad. Here, take this pill. I was told I feel sad, go to a meeting, make a call, get out of your own shit, Suzanne. I was told to use other things other than medications or vices to make it a softer transition into recovery. It wasn't easy, but it's incredible what can happen in one day. And that's the one thing that was drilled in on me is I don't have to live like this for a lifetime. I might be sad right now. I might be experiencing some stuff, but here's some solutions and some things that you can do. And those I could see working in other people. I saw them working as I continued to stay grounded and in the middle of recovery. I saw people come to support meetings, or I'd be going for walks with women and they were crying over deaths of family members or animals or, husbands leaving, women getting beat by their husband. I mean, some crazy shit stuff. And I'd be like, and you're not going to drink over this? And you're actually going to come and go for a walk with me? Like, look what you're going through. But they did those things because that's what kept them not picking up. Was I never understood it. They used to tell me, no, you don't understand, Suzanne. I need you. I'm glad that you called me. If you didn't call me, I don't know where I'd be right now. So if people are out there that are struggling, and especially for me being in recovery today, I tell women, like, if you do not call me, like, you're hurting me. Like, I need you to call me with those things. I desperately need, that's how this thing works, is how we get through. We get through it together. And it helps me get out of my own stuff so I can be compassionate and empathetic to somebody else. Because my addiction wants me thinking about poor me, poor me, poor me, right? Poor me, poor me, pour me a drink.
Right. I was just going to say, yeah.
And I didn't make that up, everybody. That's stolen.
I've heard that one. I was going there too.
Yeah.
So we are very, you know, as addicts, we tend to be very self-centered, focus on ourselves. So that's why, you know, a lot of recovery will push service work, mentorship, sponsoring, because it gets you out of your own head, which is where we like to spend a lot of time.
Oh, yeah. That's a scary neighborhood.
That's where we come up with good ideas.
Yeah. And I get people asking me all the time, like family members, can you still go to those meetings? Like, what? I think, and even me, like I said, I mean, this year has been a really difficult year, not just because of pandemic, but other things are going on in my life personally. It's been tough. There's been a lot of tears. But my brain is made up. And it hasn't changed because I'm not drinking or drugging. It still is not made up. Like, I always use my sister as an example because she's the normie. Like, she just can get through things in a different way. My squirrel doesn't leave the brain. It might move down here and sit here, but I open up my eyes and it's all of a sudden in my brain, right? Like, I need to have these outlets to be able to help me cope through every day. It doesn't matter how long I've been around. My makeup, my natural part of who I am, my dis-ease and discomfort is something that I have to learn to live with and manage every day. Right. Like, there's no guarantees that I'm not going to be drunk tomorrow. I think that's, a lot of people think, oh, I'm sober, I get my year, I get my 2 year. That's all awesome. It's like, it's not going away.
Right. There's no remission, really, and for me, it doesn't matter if it's alcohol or, I mean, I can't just stop into Target for one thing,
Totally right.
It doesn't matter what it is. If there's a cheese tray, I'm going to be at that cheese tray about 100 times. Yeah. If it's something I like, it's very, I have the full blown 100% addictive personality. That's it. And so, yeah, I think the hardest part for some people, at least like for me, I can speak for myself, is accepting that.
Yeah.
That's who I am. That's who I'm always going to be, but what's good is when we see it, we can do things like spot it in our kids. For example, I know right now, 2 of them have addictive personalities. 2 of them so far do not. Because you can just see it.
Yeah. Actually, that was a big part. I'm grateful for that. I was able to educate at a very young age with my kids. I hung them, they went to all the meetings with me. My family knows every Thursday night, mom's meetings, like my family's grown up in recovery. Like, my children don't even know, when you listen to them in conversation, that they've adopted so much incredible life skills and abilities to understand the world, because when you come into recovery and be able to pass that off to them is great, but also to teach them about the disease of alcoholism. I have one that's a normie and one that's not, that got caught into addiction. I'm a parent that struggled through wondering if my kid was going to show up the next day. I witnessed him OD twice with paramedics. That was a horrific day. My son's actually ODing with paramedics being called. My daughter, who is mentally challenged, who we just discovered this particular year that she was epileptic, was seizuring in the next room with paramedics being called. I had literally 4 ambulances and all. Like, my house was packed full of, my daughter is here. I didn't know if she's going to wake up she couldn't stop seizuring, and my other son's ODing. But once my son kind of came into recovery, the great thing is he knew right away that he had this disease. And it was just a matter of fact. I was envious of it. I'm like, the first time he drank, he's like, yeah, Mom, I'm an alcoholic. I'm like, well, you're going to go to a meeting? He goes, nope.
No, I know enough to know.
Yeah, I taught them to know that if chances are, honey, you're going to become an alcoholic. It's not your fault. I just need to let you know, but mom is and dad is, and chances are pretty high. So if you are, I just want you to know it's not your fault. There is a solution. You know where to go for get help. And one did. The other one definitely isn't. However, we've also taught him that you've got to be extremely careful with alcohol, period, because you can become an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't realize that some people may not believe that. That's my belief. I believe that I was born an alcoholic. My son believes that he was born an alcoholic. The first time he drank alcoholically. My other son, no, but he knows he's got to be careful with alcohol. So, and I think that's been a good way. My son, who is sobered up, first time he stopped trying to drink was like 18. So he's actually been sober 12 years and he's only 30. And I'm jealous of that. I think it's got everything to do with education and teaching them and taking the shame away, for sure, because he doesn't have any shame of who he is and what he has, because we've educated him and let him know that it's not his fault.
Right.
From a very young age. So it's not fun though. I mean, witnessing your children going through addiction is just.
No, I cannot imagine. And that is something that I think about, that is something that goes through my head. But then I remind myself, worrying about things that haven't happened is pointless.
That's the other thing that our disease has, futurizing. Oh my gosh, that's got to be the worst one. Hey, futurizing. What if we live so much into tomorrow and we forget about the present that, is in our hands right this second. We miss the miracles that are in our moments.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So tell me about Seek Purpose. Where did that come from?
Seek Purpose is definitely another outlet of how God works in my life. My entire recovery people who know me in my community know that both my husband and I have indebted our entire life to helping people. We had a business working with teenagers for almost 20 years. They did door-to-door sales. And we didn't get the normal kids that could go get jobs. We got the rough of the rough of the rough. And we were able to mentor them in a really great way for a long time. I opened up an indoor skateboard park with my husband. The first one in BC, actually. It was called Friction. Unfortunately, it didn't stay open. But again, it was a whole concept of having kids and families come together in a positive way, in a fun way, because a big part of my recovery has always been fun. You got to find the fun and allow your little kids to come out and play. And I've been able to do that. Now, when Seek Purpose came, my whole recovery, I even after all the things that we have done, and I have, God, has blessed me with be able to do the best I can with what he's presented me. I've always sat there and said, is this it? There's got to is there something else? Is there something else? I'd love to be able to tell more people or share stories even in a bigger scale. And then Brooke came into my life and she called me. I was writing in my journal at the time because I was feeling very lost of what direction to take in my life. As far as a career change, I was, moving into late 40s, coming into my 50s. I'm like, what the hell? And then she called me and she's like, oh, you're not gonna believe what happened. I just had this vision in the shower. And it's like, God's telling me to tell, his story or my story, his glory. And I don't know, it might be a book or podcast. And I'm like, I think I need to be a part of this. And it was so unusual for me to say that because I don't mix my recovery like that in a sense. But from there, we just got talking and excited. And next thing you know, both our families were in the living room trying to pick out a name. We decided we're going to start a podcast. And my kids, my sons, her husband, he ended up picking the name Seeking Purpose. And we kind of put things together. That's what it was, is trying to find a purpose. Like once you're sober, and even somebody who's not sober, we all are put here for a purpose. There's a reason why we're going through this. I had to come to the realization in my recovery, and what took away my fear from going through such traumatic experiences sober, and even before I got sober, my childhood, isn't just to be abused and then move on. There's got to be a purpose for that. Like the God that I believe in is not going to make me go through all that or have that happen without somehow bringing it to be used for good.
Right, right.
And that's what Seek Purpose is about. You find your purpose and you're broken. Every single thing has made me the woman that I am today, and the mother and the grandmother and the wife, is all from those broken, hurt, like terrible moments that I just want to press the fuck it button. I want to do the worst things possible to me and everybody else around me. And I don't. I just press on and trust that I just got to do the next right best thing. I got to do the next right best thing. I got to do the right next best thing. And then I push past those pains, those storms, and then the miracles happen. And then I find the purpose of it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, well, two of my favorite sayings, I can't remember who who said them, but you're here on purpose for a purpose. Yep. And every experience, good or bad, is a brush stroke to who you are.
Yes.
That's so cool. Because that just insinuates, I guess, that until the end of your life, until you experience that last breath, that's when your portrait is finished, that last stroke. And I thought it was so cool. Like,
so cool. It's true. Cause like all the things I've done, like I remember always saying in recovery, I don't want to be on my rocking chair in my old folks' home thinking I shoulda done that. Because I hear my family say that. I've heard my dad say that, and other people that are older, like elders. And I really want to make sure that I can do the best possible in life of what's been presented. And usually it's uncomfortable. Usually it's like in a place that I'm not good enough. Like, what do I have to say? All those things go through my head when those things are presented, like Seek Purpose, 50 years old and starting a freaking podcast. Really? I'm supposed to be winding down in my life, not like winding up. But, that's just important to be able to listen. And when I'm called, and I feel like I've been called. And I've done more growing in this year. It's been the toughest year, but the most growth. It's been really great.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people, not all, but a lot of people who are in recovery have seen, is this year could have been the worst, the hardest, the, time where we stopped doing things, but a lot of us have grown, have started new things, have bettered ourselves, because after so long in recovery, I mean, I don't have 100 years. I will be 6 years in February. But when we have a little bit of time, it's almost ingrained now that I have time on my hands. This is not good. What can I do with this time on my hands to either make myself or somebody else feel better? And if I can do both, perfect, and that's, it's almost like panic mode, like, shit.
The stillness is so uncomfortable, right? I always hear that. Be still. Actually, it's one of my favorite Bible verses. Is I was supposed to have it on my wrist. This is not my will be done, but His. Mm-hmm. And I wanted be still, but it didn't. When she put it on, it was too short. It didn't look good because I wanted to be still and know that I'm God. Because really, it's in the stillness that is where the power is really in the moment, like in the now. And right now is been the most. This part of my recovery journey is learning that, and this leg of my journey is learning that not to futurize. I don't know what's happening tomorrow. It's not my business. I just got to really embrace right now, because when I'm not, I miss out stuff. I still, like, I listen to women that come in that are in drinking and, oh, look what I've done with I've wasted and da 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 da. I can say that to myself in recovery because I've been so busy into the tomorrow and building and changing. And I'm forgetting that my daughter's like going, hey, mom, or my son's, hello, mom, or my husband. I'm forgetting the gifts that have already been blessed with me that I'm not nurturing and taking care of. So it is a big challenge to balance and to be able to, get things. Yeah. I found that the simplest recovery program that I work today over and above anything is hold my hands out. What's in it right now? And what would God do?
Right.
I get a phone call. What would God say? What would God do? I have to make, someone comes into my room, what would God do? That's just as simple as it gets for me today. And yeah, so it's a glorious life. It's not an easy life, but boy, I mean, where can you go in the world when you're in recovery? Like, where else can you actually go and just call up a Zoom meeting and just show up and feel welcomed and loved and know that you could actually reach out and to anybody in those rooms and just say, hey, I'm Suzanne. I'm having a tough day. I need help, and
Right.
not get help back.
Right.
Like, miraculous. And now with Zoom, everybody's like, this year, the silver linings of this year, what? I mean, there's so much good that has happened from this year. Like you were saying, like.
Exactly. If you did it right, and not
Yeah.
even right. If you tried, you improved somewhere, All you had to do was try, read a book,
Who knew it would be cool to be broken? I mean, shit. Like, honestly,
I am so cool.
it is so, it is like the scary, the craziest thing is like from my generation, I look back, like, to go publicly and be able, like, I mean, I had a hard time just doing it one-on-one or even with a small group of women, sobering up and sharing some of my dark, vulnerable moments. But now it's like people are just doing it all over the place. Like, who knew that it would be?
I love how the stigma is slowly being chipped away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Especially
Jeez.
with all the younger people, coming up and they're getting clean and they're 20 years old. And I'm like,
I know. I'm envious. Like, that's why I'm so happy. Don't get me wrong, but I honestly am like, man, like I sobered up young, no question. And it wasn't like people weren't young like me around in those days, but it was very rare. Like, I saw gray hair most places. My husband sobered up at 18. He's never had a legal drink in his life. I mean, it's the chances of us staying sober, number one, the ages that we sobered up, staying together and married. I mean, that's all God. That's all higher power. That's all a miracle that I can't even explain sitting here. But I know that the miracle is promised to me that as long as I don't pick up and I don't drink, all things are possible and will happen, that will be brought to good. And I've held on to that all these years. And for the young people now that are sobering up, and why I've kind of come out. I've really made a point of coming out, and I don't give a shit about being anonymous anymore, is because there are young people coming in at 3 months, 6 months, 10 months, a year. And then I don't want them to fall away. I want them to see that recovery is possible. Like, I've been doing it all these years, and it's so much is available to you nowadays. Use it. And yeah, to kind of just bring.
Slogan is recover out loud.
Yeah, recover out loud.
I love that so much.
Yeah. We made up a bunch of GIFs too. A lot of people don't realize that Seek Purpose, both Brooke and I, she found the Jiffy, and we started making GIFs about a year ago. So all of the GIFs that are, not all of them, but I'd say 90%, we've got like 135 million people views Seek Purpose's GIFs or GIFs, whatever way you want to call it. Right. So recover out loud, sober life, higher powered, connected, all of those GIFs and GIFs that you're putting on Instagram. I mean, it just brings me tears, because it's like every time we open up and I look at other people's Instagram posts or what they're doing, and to be able to, be proud and stamp those on their photos is just such a blessing. It just, like, that all started from a shower. That all started from a thought and inspiration in a shower. A beautiful woman reached out to support, and hey, this is what's happening. And then me to be able to join her, encourage each other, and just follow this path. Who would have thought?
You're powerful.
Yeah.
Really powerful. Oh, Suzanne, thank you so much for just being here and sharing your story of, recovery and hope. And I mean, I say this after every story. People are gonna be like, you say this after every story, but because it's true, it's gonna hit somebody. Somebody is gonna watch and go, there's my story, because I didn't have a lot of, my recovery story probably wouldn't be a bestseller. Somehow I avoided a lot of stuff, but so did a lot of other people. Addiction, right. Just like we say, there isn't one path of recovery. There isn't one path in addiction either. They're all different. And so you've probably just told somebody's story,
Yeah, I think they're important. The stories that are the down and outs, and that is the result of alcoholism. There's 3 stages, I believe, in alcoholism. One, you just drink, it's kind of the party life, and then you kind of progress into the next stage, which can become a problem. You're questioning it. You're starting to lose things. You're beginning to. And then there's a third, that when alcohol starts owning you, that you can't even function without having that alcohol inside of you. And those 3 stages can take many years. Some take years, like Mr. Uncle Al, or they can take you, like my son, 1, 2, 3, almost within a year, because he knows about the disease of alcoholism. You can progress much faster. And that's what happened with me too. Once the seed was planted, I understood, and I was educated about what alcoholism is and what it can do. It only took one other time to drink for me to really tell with my innermost self that I have a problem. Right. And, I knew my drinking would never be the same. So if you're out there and you're questioning, everybody's always like, oh, what is sobriety? Like, if you're questioning it, this is what totally screwed me up, and it will probably screw you up, and you probably won't even want to listen to me now. But I was told anybody that's questioning their drinking has a problem. Normal people who have no problems with alcohol, do not suffer from this disease, who never questions their drinking. My sister, not once, not one single second, not even on a split minute, has ever questioned her drinking. I'll end with that.
Well, Susan, thank you again.